In this recording, we're going to talk about sustainable development. So, in the 1980s, there was a move towards introducing more sustainable forms of development in order to protect the global environment in the long term. Development strategies are focused on ameliorating problems which might otherwise threaten chaos at a global level. In 1987, the World Commission on Environment concluded that economic development in both the West and the developing world should be compatible with greater responsibility for the global environment. The Commission advocated the policy of sustainable development. A central component of this idea was the acknowledgement that poverty in the developing countries might be a major cause of global warming. Also, the World Commission on Environment argued that rich countries should aim to reduce pollution and put clean air before higher living standards. In the 1990s, 178 United Nations states agreed to pursue sustainable development, and sustainable development has been adopted as part of the Millennium Development Goals. Another consequence of sustainable development thinking has been the realization that big aid projects may actually cause great damage to social and the natural environment. For example, in the 1960s, $125 billion was spent on large dams in order to provide hydroelectric power, but these dams have generally failed to be cost-effective and have not generated the expected income that the countries involved need in order to pay off the debt incurred by their construction. After a string of environmental disasters associated with the World Bank's project and years of criticism, the World Bank promised to clean up its act and become a greener funding machine. In 1933, the World Bank created an independent inspection panel to address environmental and human rights compliance, created to aid projects that the bank was funding. However, Foster has criticised the World Bank by arguing that World Bank funded projects are still creating environmental problems. For example, in 2003, the World Bank invested in an oil field and pipeline development stretching across Central Asia. Critics have drawn attention to the possibility that the project might cause serious human rights abuses, could spark regional wars, and would deliver yet more oil to already saturated Western markets, further contributing to climate change. Also, Foster argues that the World Bank's own policies, which are intended to protect the environment and vulnerable social groups, have been steadily diluted from day one. For example, in 2002, the World Bank changed its forest policy to allow it to support logging in tropical forests. There is some evidence that the IMF activities are also having a negative environmental effect. Loans from the IMF come with strings attached. Some of these are: recipient countries are expected to reduce government spending, raise cash through export and increase foreign investment, and all of these pressures have enormous negative impact on the environment. For example, an International Monetary Fund loan to Brazil in 1999 led to a 90% cut in the largest official program for protection of the Amazon. Also, sustainable development has been undermined by consumerism and the continual rises in living standards and expectations. Kingsbury et al. States technological development has led many and perhaps most of the world's population to, if not expect, then at least want more of almost everything, as the developed world has and countries do. For example, a rise in living standards in China led to a demand for cheap fridges which deplete the ozone layer as they have a certain chemical in them. So, the concept of sustainable development has been supplemented by the concept of appropriate development. This suggests that small is beautiful and that social and ecological outcomes should have preference over GNP or GDP. Also, development should be operated by people in their localities without the need for external Western expertise. For example, technology that is both sustainable and can be operated using only local expertise might, like wind or solar power. Elkington believes that there is a tension between economic development and environmental concerns, with one side trying to force through new rules and standards and another trying to roll them back. Development should focus on a triple bottom line, which is economic prosperity, environmental quality, and social justice. The World Bank argued that sustainable development should pay attention to 5 types of capital, and these are financial, physical, human, social, and natural. So, in conclusion, for development to be successful, it needs to be sustainable, as if the whole world had the lifestyle of the rich, then the planet would not be able to support everyone's needs. Also, the slogan "Think Global, Act Local" is fast becoming the slogan of sustainable development, and if the world does not put environmental and social responsibility on a similar level to economic prosperity, we run the risk of real extinction.